Hey everyone, Tim Schofield here from QBKing77.com, here to compare a couple of the top two budget devices out at the market, and that would be the Alcatel OneTouch Idol 3 and the Asus ZenFone 2. Now there's a difference in price actually. The Idol 3 runs you about $250, and then the ZenFone 2 is going to run you about $300. There's differences in specs though. The ZenFone 2 is going to give you 64 gigs of internal storage and 4 gigabytes of RAM. And the Idol 3 is going to give you 16 gigs of internal storage and 2 gigabytes of RAM. However, both of them do have micro SD card slots, so you can expand the storage on both. And also, one thing I want to note is they essentially have the exact same band support, whether you want to use it on AT&T, T-Mobile, etc. And however, the Idol 3 has band 12 support. For those of you on T-Mobile, that might be of interest to you. But anyways, let's go ahead and take a closer look at both of them and compare the two and see which one is actually a better deal. Alright, and here is both side by side, and while they both do have 5.5-inch displays, their design is definitely different. So putting them up right next to each other, they are about the exact same height. However, the ZenFone 2 is thicker and also heavier as well. It's noticeably heavier. Both of them do have plastic backs. The ZenFone 2 is actually removable, where you will actually find dual SIM card slots in the back. So here's dual SIMs and the micro SD card slot I'm talking about. You have a 3,000 milliamp hour embedded battery, and then the Idol 3's back does not come out, so it's an embedded battery, of course. And then you do have the SIM card slot, just a single SIM, and then a micro SD card slot as well. Now, when it comes to button placement, Asus took a page out of LG's book and decided to put the volume rockers on the back of the device, which I don't mind. I actually, you get used to them over some time, so it's not a big deal for me. And the power button's actually up on the top, which is not a good place for it, in my honest opinion. I really wish they would have put it on the side or even the back, like LG does with in the middle of the volume buttons. And then on the Idol 3, I don't like the power button placement on this one either. It's in the upper left-hand corner, so you really do have to adjust your hand to use it. And then the volume rockers are a little high up on the right side here. However, both do offer double tap to wake support, so you'll see you can use that, and double tap to sleep as well in their stock launchers. Both of them do have 13 megapixel rear cameras on the back. The Idol 3 has an 8 megapixel front facing camera, and the ZenFone 2 has a 5 megapixel front facing camera. Now when it comes to speakers, there is a big difference here. So you'll see the ZenFone 2 has a nice big speaker grill in the back right. Wrong, I don't know if you noticed when I took it off earlier, I should have pointed it out, but it only has this little speaker in the bottom left-hand corner, and it's really not that great. It's below average, it's a little tinny, and just really doesn't sound that great. And then you have front-facing speakers on the Idol 3. So you'll see up the top here, and then at the bottom as well, and they're very good. So they're stereo speakers, and I really like them. Whether I'm watching a movie, playing music, playing a game, it is a nice speaker experience. Now let's talk about the displays, and like I said, they both have 5.5-inch displays. They're both IPS LCD displays, so you'd think they'd be pretty similar. There are a little bit of differences. However, the Idol 3 is a little bit better. Colors are just a little bit more vibrant, and it gets brighter. So I'm going to put both of them all the way up, and you should be able to tell on the camera actually the difference between them. So here we go. You'll see the Idol 3 gets brighter, so it's just easier to see outside, and overall it's just a better display. Now you'll see a little bit difference on the bottom here. You have on-screen buttons versus capacitive buttons, and that's a personal preference of yours, which one you like more. Personally, I like both. It really doesn't matter to me, just because usually these on-screen buttons go away if I need something in full screen. Alright, so let's go ahead and open the camera on both of them. The ZenFone 2 opens a little bit quicker, however the Idol 3 has a little bit faster shutter speed when taking pictures. But let's take a picture using both the cameras real quick. So I'm going to snap a quick one on my ZenFone 2, and then we're going to do the exact same thing on the Idol 3. Alright, so here's a look at both of those images. You'll notice that the cup and overall looks a little bit more overexposed on the Idol 3, just the way it handles light, and it looks a little sharper on the ZenFone 2. That's just because the software image processing just does that. Sometimes it can over sharpen it, but overall I'm going to give the edge to the ZenFone 2 just with picture quality. Like I said, you can get a little bit of overexposure in bright light situations on the Idol 3, and also on the ZenFone 2 you have a lot more camera features, I guess you could say. So there's honestly too many of them. However, some of them are kind of nice to use with the manual mode, and then the low light mode, which drops down to 3 megapixels, but in super low light, it does a good job. And then when it comes to the front-facing camera, honestly, both of them take good pictures. You got an 8 megapixel, which might be a little too much right now, kind of future-proofs the front-facing camera. So I'm going to give the edge to the Idol 3, just overall a little bit better quality with those selfies. And then when it comes to battery life, the Idol 3 has a 2,910 mAh battery, and the ZenFone 2 has a 3,000 mAh battery. Both are embedded, like I said. When it comes to screen on time on the Idol 3, I get about 4 hours and 15 minutes screen on time. And the ZenFone 2, I get about 4 hours and 25 minutes. So maybe that 90 milliamp hours adds to that extra 10 minutes of screen on time. Overall, like I said, both of them get me through just about the day. Over 4 hours screen on time is good battery life for me. And the ZenFone 2 has quick charging capabilities, and the Idol 3 does not. So you can charge the ZenFone 2 a lot faster than you can the Idol 3. So a little bit of a win for the ZenFone 2 because you get a little bit more screen on time and you have the fast charging. Now when it comes to some specs, the Idol 3 has a Snapdragon 615 processor versus the Intel Atom Z3580 2.3 gigahertz processor. And honestly, I'm going to be straight up with it, and the Intel processor is better than the Snapdragon processor in this case. So when you're gaming, I mean, both of them still handle games very well. However, the ZenFone 2 is noticeably better in a sense of it just handles the games better, honestly, whether it be the 4 gigabytes of RAM helping it out or that faster processor as well. I mean, both of those added together are definitely a bonus, and you'll just notice that it's a little bit better. However, when it comes down to it, I mean, the Idol 3 still handles these high-end games still very well. When it comes to multitasking and things of that nature, however, the ZenFone 2 does a better job. And I mean, the 4 gigabytes of RAM is definitely going to future-proof the device as well. 4 gigabytes is a good amount of RAM right now on a mobile device. But you'll see I'm running the game just fine on the Idol 3, and I was running it just fine on the ZenFone 2 as well. So let's try some multitasking on here. So load this up. Let's go ahead and open up the calculator on both of them. And then let's go ahead and load up the clock. And you'll see that the Idol 3 takes a little bit longer to reload these apps, and that's due to less memory. And it makes sense. So loading up the camera as well, you'll see a little bit quicker on the ZenFone 2. And that's overall what it's going to come down to. Multitasking and high-end gaming is going to be better on the ZenFone 2 for you power users. And finally, let's talk about software. Both of them have Android 5.0 Lollipop on them. And there's a difference. The Idol 3 has definitely more of a stock Android look and feel to it, which means more material design. I mean, very similar to what you'll see on a Nexus 6, Nexus 5 running Lollipop as well. I mean, overall, I really like stock Android in general. This is definitely has a lot of customization to it. It's called the Zen UI that Asus put on it, and you'll see it's just overall completely themed. I mean, everything, which adds also customizability. So here's the stock launcher. You'll see you have scroll effects, icon packs. You can change themes. There's a whole theme store where you can add and download various themes, similar to have on the Galaxy S6 and the One M9, which is nice because it adds customizability. And you can, of course, add a third-party launcher as well on here. However, there's a crazy amount of bloatware included. Didn't mean to open up Snapchat there. An insane amount of bloatware. Some of it you can uninstall, but some of it you can't, and it's really, really, really annoying. I actually get pop-ups from Clean Master all the time. There's even an app called Mirror, which opens the front-facing camera, and that's it. You can't interact with it, nothing. It literally just uses the front-facing camera, so I could have just opened the camera application to do that. It's just unnecessary. The ZenFone 2 has some bloatware. I mean, you have Adobe on there. I believe WhatsApp was included as well, but that's honestly about it. Really no crazy amount of bloatware, so when it comes down to it, I prefer the UI of the Idol 3 just because I'm more of a stock Android kind of guy. You can load up a custom launcher on both of them, of course, because what do you know, it runs Android. Something that Alcatel OneTouch actually advertises is that the Idol 3 is reversible, and you'll see you have an option there in the quick toggles, and what that means is you can actually use the device completely either way, upside down or right side up. You can even answer phone calls if it's in your pocket a certain way, just because you have stereo speakers on there and you have microphones on both the top and bottom. Now both of these have gesture support as well, so you got Zen Motion and gestures. On the Idol 3 you have double tap screen, turn over to mute, and turn over to activate snooze on the alarm. So that's about it when it comes to gestures. And then Zen Motion, you actually have a decent amount with touch ones. Like I said, double tap, and then you can actually launch apps when the screen is off by writing a certain letter. You can customize those as well. Motion gesture when you can shake it to take a screenshot. And you have one-handed mode as well. You can add this quick trigger, which double tapping the home button makes it smaller. You can move it around and customize the screen. It adds soft keys as well, which, I mean, it works completely like it would in full screen, just much smaller. It's good for those of you, I mean, maybe with smaller hands, but you still want a larger screen for multimedia or gaming, etc. Alright, so let's get some final thoughts on these two budget devices. And honestly, I enjoyed using and reviewing both of them. They're both really good devices. And I'm impressed with their price points, all the features they add, and the specs that they have as well. Now, when it comes down to it, the ZenFone 2 is probably more for those of you that are power users when it comes to high-end gaming. Lots of multitasking. It's 4 gigabytes of RAM, so that kind of future-proofs it a little bit more than the 2 gigabytes of RAM. And the processor is a little bit better as well, which is going to help with, like I said, the higher-end gaming. However, you do have fantastic front-facing speakers on the Idol 3, which help a lot, especially if you are someone that likes to watch a lot of movies, maybe play a lot of games or listen to music with your speakers. It does a great job with it, and the screen is better. It gets brighter, it's easier to see outside. However, the camera is just a little bit better on the ZenFone 2. However, the camera on both of them are actually still good, so I wouldn't really take that into crazy consideration. Now, for my choice on which one I would buy, if I had to pick one of them, this is honestly the hardest decision I've had to make when choosing between two devices, because they're both very good. Normally, after using it, I'm like, okay, I want to go with this one instead of this one. Not the case this time. This is honestly so difficult because I love the front-facing speakers. I love the quick charge on the ZenFone 2. This is very difficult. Okay, I'm going to give a very, very, very slight edge to the Idol 3 due to the screen and the front-facing speakers. So there's your winner for me. That's the one I would choose to buy. However, you're not going to go wrong with either. And like I said, I enjoy both of them. So, I mean, it's your personal opinion on which one you like more and which one's going to be more useful in your day-to-day use, your real-world use. And that's it, guys. That's my review of the Idol 3 and the ZenFone 2. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe to me as well. Lots more coverage coming soon. And you can follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Snapchat, Periscope, and there's another one I forgot, Instagram. That's it. Okay, so thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have a good day, and see you later.